Guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. So guys, I'm pretty sure all of you have gone and watched Mike Tyson's podcast with Canelo Alvarez. And it was a great podcast. And I want to take a little point from there. What Canelo said. He goes, I don't look at that Mayweather fight as a loss. I look at it as a lesson. And I grew from that. And I want to talk a little bit about that because Canelo lost to Floyd Mayweather, right? He got beat up. He got convincingly beat in that fight. It was a one-sided, you could say a one-sided whooping, really. He got beat badly in that fight. But what I liked about Canelo is the way he grew from that fight. He got better and better and better and better. Every time Canelo steps into a ring, Canelo is getting better and better and better. And now he's got to a point where a lot of people think he's unbeatable. A lot of people think that he's not going to lose to anyone from 160 to 175 even. But that's because of the improvement he's made. And don't get me wrong, even after the Mayweather fight, he had some close fights and some tough fights. You know, Lara, Trout, gave him a lot of trouble. Even when he fought Miguel Cotto, that was a close fight. You know, the Khan fight, he was, in my opinion, losing quite a lot of those rounds until he knocked him out. But Canelo, for me, is improving. He's evolving as a fighter. And that's because of the fact that he lives the life. He lives the life. He stays in the gym. He studies what he's weak at and he improves on it. You see many fighters that you see that have a lot of natural talent, probably a lot more natural talent when they first come into boxing than Canelo. But they kind of stay static. They kind of don't really improve much. And they end up staying static. They end up, not improving and hitting a kind of ceiling. Canelo, right, when he lost to Floyd Mayweather, who would have thought that Canelo would be where he's at today after being schooled like that? Many fighters will just, in my opinion, many fighters that would have got beat the way Canelo did in that fight would have been ruined. Probably wouldn't have been the same. Look what happened when Calzaghe beat Jeff Lacey. You know? Fell away. But Mayweather, who was 36 at the time, Canelo, who was 22 or 23, I believe, at the time, 21 to 23, he was very young. You know, it was 9 years ago. So 9 years, he's a 22. He got schooled, he got humiliated that night. He got beat up by a smaller man, by a guy that's, don't get me wrong, there's no shame in losing to Mayweather. He's, for me, one of the greatest ever. There's no shame in losing to Floyd Mayweather. But it was the way he lost. The fight wasn't competitive. He got beat up every single round. He lost every round in that fight. But Canelo didn't get downbeat about that. He didn't start saying, oh, you know what? Boxing ain't for me. He grew from that. And that's why I respect Canelo, because now he's the biggest star in world boxing. He's done it through hard work, right, and tour. I know a lot of people question his resume and question who he's fighting. No. Canelo's resume is one of the best in boxing. There's no question. Canelo's resume is one of the best in boxing, period. I don't think anyone should be looking at his resume and start nitpicking. He's got one of the best resume in boxing. There's no question about that. And I feel like if you're questioning that, you probably are some kind of hater, or you just expect fighters to fight killers back to back to back to back. No one's going to fight killers back to back to back. You know, it's not healthy. You know, everybody takes a gimme fight. All the great fighters took a gimme fight here and there. Even the great fighters that had 100 fights plus, they all had gimme fights. And some of them had loads of gimme fights. Right? When you're fighting like Canelo, look at what Canelo's doing. Just look at it now, what Canelo's doing. Fought Callum Smith in December, fought Yildirim in February, fighting Saunders, and then he's looking in May, and then fighting Caleb Plant in September. How can you not respect that? He's literally cleaning out a 168-pound division within the space of what, 8 months, 9 months, 10 months? Come on. You know, which fighter does that within the space of 10 months, cleans out a division? Now, people may say, well, the 168-pound division and the belt holders are weak. Well, it's still world champions. They're still undefeated. Those are undefeated. Callum Smith was an undefeated world champion. Billy Joe Saunders, an undefeated world champion. Caleb Plant, an undefeated world champion. How can you say that Canelo Alvarez is picking and choosing his fights? I just don't understand. When he's cleaning out a division. If Benavidez was the champion instead of Caleb Plant, right? He would have fought Benavidez, as his trainer Eddie Reynoso pointed out, that if Benavidez was a champion, we'd be fighting him in September. So at the end of the day, I just don't feel Canelo gets enough credit. I think a lot of people are there hating on him and hating on his resume. And there's, you know, when you get to the level that Canelo's at, there's always going to be some kind of, oh, Canelo picks and chooses his fights. Oh, Canelo doesn't fight him. Canelo's not fighting Charlo. Canelo's not fighting this guy. He's not fighting Andrade. He's not fighting Beterbiev. There's always going to be some kind of excuse because there's always going to be somebody that the fans want to see him fight. See, if he beats Andrade, what are they going to say then? Oh, well, oh, he needs to fight Charlo now. He beats Charlo. Oh, well, he needs to go and fight Beterbiev. There's never going to be ending. And then if he beats Beterbiev, what they're going to say? Oh, go up to cruiserweight and fight Bradis. Like, it's never ending. You see, the fans' demands are never ending. But the real hardcore boxing fans, the ones that haven't got an agenda like myself, see, and I want to say something about the fans and even some of the subscribers that come and comment on my videos. Like sometimes, like I made a video about Canelo Beterbiev, a fight that I want to see him fight. And I got criticized, oh, this is a nonsense topic. You know, you don't want your favorite fighters to go and fight tough fights, but you want to see Canelo fight tough fights. And, you know, listen, the reason why I said that I think he should go and fight Beterbiev is because I think he can beat Beterbiev. Not because I want to see him lose or I want to, like, I believe he's going to beat everybody at 168. But then after that, I would like to see him fight Beterbiev because a lot of people think Beterbiev beats him. That would be seen as a 50-50 fight. There's many people that think Beterbiev beat Canelo. I don't. I personally will be picking Canelo in that fight. But Beterbiev, in my opinion, is a more riskier fight than any of his other fights. That would be a kind of fight where he'd be daring to be great, right? Where a lot of people might be even picking against him. Whereas, if you'd be honest, in these fights that he's having, even at 168, even though he's beating legitimate guys, don't get it twisted, he's seen as a massive favorite in all of those fights, right? And he's been quite a big favorite in most of his fights throughout his career. Apart from the Golovkin fight, which you could say was 50-50. And let's not forget, those fights were also very close. A lot of people had him losing the first fight. The second fight was very, very close as well. So what I'm trying to point out is that if Canelo goes and beats Beterbiev convincingly, you know, a lot of people wouldn't put Canelo in the top 10 greatest. And maybe even if he goes and beats someone like Beterbiev, they still wouldn't. But I definitely think Canelo Alvarez is going to be putting himself in the discussion of the greatest ever if he goes and accomplishes things like that. Because like I said, going to light heavyweight and beating a dominant light heavyweight champion, because for me right now, Beterbiev, I know he hasn't fought Bivol and there's many other guys that, you know, Beterbiev, but for me, Beterbiev beats everybody in the light heavyweight division. I don't think anyone beats him. So Canelo will be fighting the number 1 ranked 175 pounder. And if he beats him, that would be an epic win as far as I'm concerned. That would be an incredible feat. So this is not me saying it because I want to see him lose. No, because I believe he's capable of beating someone like Beterbiev. I do feel he's very capable of beating Beterbiev. You know, so that's why I want to see that fight. Not because not because I want to see him lose. I'm a massive Canelo Alvarez fan. I love Canelo's fights. I love what he's done in the sport. But I just don't think he gets credit, you know, when he's going through these guys. He just doesn't get credit. People will say, oh, well, he's fighting these lower level guys. He's fighting Saunders, who's not that great. He's fighting Caleb Plant. No, these are undefeated world champions. Callum Smith was an undefeated world champion when he fought him. And he beat him convincingly. That's an incredible win. Just because you want to see him fight Charlo and Andrade, he can't fight everybody at the same time. He can't fight everybody. It's impossible for him to fight everybody at the same time. But he will fight. I believe he will fight all those guys. But for me, after he cleans out the 168-pound division, I would love to see him fight Beterbiev. I believe that would be a great fight. And that would be a daring to be great fight. Because like I said, a lot of people will be picking against Canelo in that fight. And it'd be seen as a 50-50 fight since the Golovkin fight. You see, after the Golovkin fight, he's been having fights which I believe are very good fights. And the fact that he's walking through them like he is incredible, because he's beating world-class world champions in convincing fashion. However, they're not seen as 50-50 fights. The Beterbiev fight will be seen as a 50-50, you know? And the fact that it is seen as a 50-50, being Canelo being so much smaller than Beterbiev, again, shows how great Canelo is. Canelo, don't get it twisted, Canelo is great. Canelo is great. There's no denying that. His resume for me is, among with Pacquiao, the best in boxing right now. He's got one of the best resumes in world boxing, Canelo Alvarez. There's no question about it. And the guys that consistently hate on him and say, oh, he's ducking that guy, he's ducking these American fighters, this because they're pushing an agenda. They're pushing an agenda. They're not being neutral. Someone like myself, I'm neutral. I don't have anything against Canelo. I don't have anything against any other fighters. I'm just telling you what's the truth. And the truth is, Canelo Alvarez right now is the best fighter in world boxing. Canelo Alvarez right now is doing things that no other fighter in world boxing is doing by going through a division like he is, in the space of 8-9 months. So that needs to be respected. Canelo Alvarez is potentially fought in December, February, May, and then he'll fight again in September. And then he may fight again in December. How can you not respect that? Within the space of a year, right, he could fight 5 times. How can you not respect that? You know, so I just feel like, you know, fans need to give someone like that a lot of credit, because he's, like I said, what he's doing is incredible. You know, it's incredible. So I don't feel Canelo gets the credit he deserves. I believe he deserves a lot more credit. And some of it might be down to, you know, him failing the drugs test as well. I think a lot of people have been put off by that. I think they feel a bit I think they have a bit of bitter, you would say, bitter energy towards Canelo, because listen, rightfully so, that's in boxing is wrong. But you know, I put that to one side and just look at Canelo as a fighter and the way he's improved, the way he's got better, the way he dedicates himself to boxing. I think he's a great example to young fighters on how you should conduct yourself in and out the ring. Obviously, with the PD stuff to one side, but everything else, like his dedication, determination, the way he approaches the sport, I think young fighters should definitely look at the way he does it. For me, definitely the best pound for pound fighter in the world. I think a lot of people would say Crawford. Some people would say Crawford. However, Crawford doesn't have the resume that Canelo has. Canelo has a much better resume and far more depth as well. And he's fought way better fighters, you know. And I personally feel that Canelo Alvarez, the sky is the limit. The sky is the limit. I just don't feel, unless he goes up to like cruiserweight or something ridiculous like that, which I don't think he will. I honestly feel that he could be undefeated from 160 to 175 till the end of his career, even if he fights everybody in those weight classes. Genuinely, I believe he's that good. I'm telling you, Canelo Alvarez is a special fighter. And he's evolving every fight. Every time I see Canelo, it's like he's getting better. His confidence, his mentality, everything seems to be growing fight on fight. And I feel that Mayweather fight, that Mayweather fight could have gone two ways. He could have either been ruined, or he could either learn a lesson from that loss and grew from it. And that's what Canelo did. He learned a lesson from that loss and grew. He grew from it. He didn't get downbeat and say, oh, you know, and just like cry away in the corner. No, he grew from it. He went and trained, went in the gym, trained hard, worked on his weaknesses, improved. A lot of people said his feet were stuck in the mud. His feet are so much better now. He closes off the ring so much better now. You know, he's so much more versatile now. At times in that Mayweather fight, Canelo seemed clueless to me. It was as if he ran out of ideas. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know what to do. And at times, Mayweather had him on the ropes. Literally, imagine Canelo being on the ropes, being the bigger, stronger man, being on the ropes, being bullied, but like being battered by Mayweather. Like, who would have thought that? That's how badly, like, that was probably the most impressive performance from Floyd Mayweather by any fighter. The fact that you'd be fighting a guy like Canelo, who many felt could beat Mayweather, by the way. Many were picking Canelo to beat Mayweather. And he absolutely schooled him. That's probably one of the most impressive performances by any champion. The way he beat down Canelo in that fight, who was bigger, a lot stronger. Mayweather just beat him down. And like I said, that for me, with guys that didn't have the mentality and character that Canelo had, that could have ruined a lot of fighters. There's been many fighters that have taken beatings like that have been ruined. Like I said, I mentioned Jeff Lacey, Calzaghe. Jeff Lacey was never the same after that. He got humiliated. Everybody was talking about Jeff Lacey like he was the next coming, you know, and Calzaghe put him in his place. And he was never the same, you see. So that's what I'm saying. The way Mayweather beat up Canelo that night, it wasn't just the fact that he lost. It was the way he lost. It was the way he got humiliated that night. And many fighters, like I said, could be ruined. He grew from that. He didn't cry in the corner. No, he went back in the gym and worked on his weaknesses and grew. And look at the career. Look at the fighters that he's beat after that. And even if you think certain fights were close, like the Golovkin fight, like people talk about he lost Lara. He didn't lose to Lara. He beat Lara. He beat Trout. He beat all of those guys. The only fight that I can say was close, where you could make an argument, is the Golovkin 2 fights. For me, Golovkin won the first fight. Again, and I don't think it was as wide as what people were making it out, by the way. Canelo did a lot of good work in that fight. And I think because of the fact that Canelo was a cash cow and the politically more connected fighter, right? Everybody was, you know, Golovkin got robbed. Golovkin got robbed. No, the fight was a lot closer. But I had Golovkin winning that first fight. But it wasn't as wide as what people were making it out, right? Canelo did a lot of good work in that fight. Canelo actually landed the more eye-catching shots in that fight, but Golovkin probably deserved the decision in that fight. The second fight, again, people make out like Golovkin got robbed. For me, Canelo won that fight. Canelo won that fight, I believe. I scored that fight, and I had Canelo winning that fight, 7-5. It was, again, a close fight, but I think Canelo deserved that decision. No doubt about it in my mind. I feel Canelo deserved to win that fight. But again, Golovkin's a beast. Golovkin's not an ordinary fighter. We're talking about a beast here. We're talking about one of the best middleweights of all time. You could have Golovkin in the top 5, top 10 greatest middleweights of all time. Like, why are people making out like that? Even if you do think he lost in a very close fight, either way, both times, makes him any less greater. Like, come on, man. Like, I feel like he just doesn't seem to get credit, Canelo. You need to give him his credit. He's got a great resume. He's fighting the best at the 168-pound division now. He's growing as a fighter. He's getting better fight on fight. He deserves respect. He deserves respect. And I do feel like that Mayweather fight, although it was a lesson for Canelo and he got humbled and he got beat convincingly that night, I felt he grew so much from that night. So much from that fight that Canelo Alvarez today is what he is because of that fight. Because he knew he had so many things to work on. He knew that there were so many weaknesses and so many chinks in his armor that he had to go and work on. Canelo was never, when he first came into boxing, the most naturally gifted guy. You know, he's had to evolve. A bit like Cristiano Ronaldo in football. When he first came, although you could see talent there, the same way with Canelo, Ronaldo had to improve his game. He wasn't a naturally gifted footballer like a Messi, for example, who was at 19 the best in the world. 20, he was among the best in the world. Ronaldo had to develop his game. The same way Canelo's had to develop his game. He's had to learn on the job, get better, improve his weaknesses in the gym. And that's why, for me, Canelo is where he's at right now, because he dedicates himself to boxing. You never see him out of shape. He's always in shape. He's always training. He lives in the gym. Like he says, I'm a gym rat. I live in the gym. And that's why Canelo is where he's at. As they say, practice makes perfect. And Canelo now is for me now, even though Canelo's been in the game for like, what, 15 years? He turned pro 16, 15. And he's been in the game for, what, about 16 years now. He's at the peak of his powers now. I believe Canelo's in his peak right now. Don't know how long Canelo's going to go on for, because he's already an all-time great. Now it's just adding to the legacy. He's just adding more to his legacy. Like I said, like, is he going to do things to break boundaries, like daring to be great, going up and taking on a formidable light heavyweight champion in Beterbiev? It's just adding. If Canelo doesn't fight Beterbiev at all or go to light heavyweight, he'll still be an all-time great. It's just what he wants to do. It's like Manny Pacquiao right now. Manny Pacquiao's a legend. In my opinion, I have him in the top 10, top 5 greatest fighters of all time. You know? For me personally, he makes my top 10. Top 5. But if he doesn't want to fight Spencer and Crawford, that's not a problem, because he's done everything. If he fights one of them and beats one of them at this age, then he's just adding to his legacy. Right? And I look at Canelo exactly the same way. I feel Canelo, by beating someone like Beterbiev, will just be adding to his legacy. Because just like Manny Pacquiao will be daring to be great at this age to fight someone like Spencer Crawford, Canelo would be daring to be great to move up to light heavyweight and fight a formidable champion at light heavyweight, because Canelo would be undersized in that fight. So that's why you'd have to give him a lot of respect. But yeah, I can't. If I'm honest with you, I'm interested to see what happens in the 168-pound division first. Let's see if he can get through that. Listen, let's not disrespect Saunders or Caleb Plant, because those guys could cause an upset. Who knows? Maybe they have the style to beat Canelo. Time will tell. I don't think so. I think Canelo will become the undisputed 168-pound champion. But we need to see it, you know? We've seen upsets in boxing before. There's nothing to say we can't see it again. You know, so, yeah, leave your thoughts, guys. What do you guys think? Do you think Canelo doesn't get the respect that he deserves? Do you think that Canelo's grown and he's right, that I learned from that Mayweather loss and I grew from that Mayweather loss? What do you guys make of Canelo Alvarez's career after Floyd Mayweather? What do you make of his career? How do you think his career has gone? Do you not rate his career after that? Do you rate his career very highly after that? Do you think that fight made Canelo Alvarez? If you think there's another fight that you think, maybe the Golovkin fight, you think he grew from that fight, leave your thoughts in the comment section below. I'd love to have a debate with you guys. And also, guys, I'll just remind you that obviously now that I've sorted this background out, I will definitely be hoping to do some live streams with some fans. If you're interested, let me know in the comment section. And I'd love to have some of you guys on. When I start it, I'm going to be doing live stream. I'll let you know when I do my first live stream. Who knows? I might do it in the next couple of days, but I will let you know in advance about when I'm doing the live stream. Join my Facebook group as well, because I'll be putting all the information up in there. So my Facebook group is Boxing Fans. You'll find it. It's got about 3.6k members in that. So join my Facebook group if you haven't joined it. Really important that you join it, because I'll be putting all the information that I'm doing on my YouTube channel on there. Leave your thoughts, guys. Let me know what you think. Make sure to share the video, subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.